Save the Semantics, episode 164. It is December 16, 2021. My name is Myro. This is the podcast where I ramble on for a bit about some shit. It is the day after Christmas, which is nice. Christmas was nice. It was very chill. Generally, as it is in my neck of the woods. Not a whole lot going on. Yeah. I'm feeling like a little under the weather. I don't know if it's COVID, but I'm a little out of it. So I'm trying to stay, I don't know about quarantine, but trying to just kind of avoid people for the time being, avoid spaces for a little bit, which sucks a little bit, but I'm not really willing to take a whole lot of risks at the moment. It's just sort of like, just with like the cases and everything, I'm just sort of erring on the side of caution. I'm sure it's nothing too bad, but I don't know. I don't want to deal with the, consequences of going out and about, and considering in my area, there hasn't been a whole lot of cases reported. There was one case of the new Omicron variant. So that shit could spread very quickly, and while it looks like the symptoms and the effects of it are pretty minimal, it's still a little cause for worry. So I'm just kind of staying on the sidelines, you could say, and just kind of taking it a lot easier, and not trying to do a whole lot more. But whatever. It's sort of wrapping up the holidays in a sense, a little bit, once the new year rolls around, I'm kind of getting busy. So, yeah, just kind of preparing for that. But, yeah, other than that, I've been pretty good. I've been doing all right. Have had a pretty nice long week off. And it's going to be a pretty short week next week as well. So I want to enjoy as much of it as I can, to the capacity that I can, that I feel comfortable doing so. And yeah, I've been able to see some of my friends, which I've been very happy about, and been able to hang out and go out, before I started to feel like it started to kind of look maybe a little worrisome. So yeah, I'm happy that I've been kind of able to do that before I got too uncomfortable, if you will. I watched some basketball yesterday. I know last time I talked about how I haven't really been keeping up a whole lot, just because I feel like with the safety and protocols that have been occurring with the players, it's just sort of it's been a little hard to watch, knowing that, and seeing these teams just completely depleted, missing their entire starting lineup. It's just not super fun to watch that, and I don't really like watching that with the context of everything. It sucks a little bit, but the games I did watch, or sort of I mainly watched the Warriors and Suns game, which I'm happy that I tuned in for. Warriors got the win in Phoenix, and it was done without Wiggins or Poole. Obviously Clay. I think Iggy was there, but he's still injured as well. So, yeah, they got a win against a pretty relatively healthy Suns team. So I'm glad that they got the win. It was very impressive. Otto Porter went the fuck off in the last 2 minutes. He was hitting everything. It was incredible. I was That was the most excited that I've been watching a game for a minute now. It was a lot of fun. I like seeing players that don't always get don't always get to that level of they don't always pull off these types of performances, sort of like a surprise performance, and that was a lot of fun. And he came out to ball, man. He showed up at the right time, and I'm happy that they kept feeding him too. He knowing he was the hot hand, and he didn't miss. He just kept hitting those shots, so that was a lot of fun. Um, what else? I watched the Bucks Celtics highlights. That was cool. I saw that the Celtics were up by like 17 or something like that at halftime. I was like, this looks like Celtics are gonna kind of pull this one through. But then Giannis, and then they came back and they pulled off the win. So I watched the highlights of that game, and that was fun. What else? Watched the highlights of the Nets Lakers. Nets had a pretty solid lead over them throughout the course of the game, but the Lakers kind of pulled back and eventually lost. But looked like a pretty fun game. Lakers still suck, which I'm perfectly fine with, but that was an entertaining game. And I'm not even particularly a fan of the Nets either, but good to see them win over the Lakers. So that was a fun game. And then what other games were there? There were five, right? Knicks, Hawks. I didn't really care about because Trae Young wasn't playing. The Hawks were missing a bunch of their players, so I felt like it was kind of, it's shitty that they had to play. You know what I mean? Good for the Knicks winning, but they won against like a very depleted Hawks team, so it's just not really. I don't know. It's not really that. It's not a whole. There's not really a whole lot to really talk about. I know that Kemba had like a triple double, which is cool, and he's had a bit of a resurgence after getting back into the starting lineup due to missing people like Derrick Rose, and other players. So, yeah, good for the Knicks, but again, the Hawks are missing one of their best player, and a bunch of other players too. So it's a little hard to kind of moral victories, I guess, but yeah, it is what it is. And then the last game of the night was the Mavs and the Jazz, which I did not tune in for. I heard that was, I mean, it looked like it went down to the wire, but I didn't really care to watch the game. So, yeah. So, but other than that, fun. I'm happy that I tuned in for the Warriors game. It seemed like the other games, just, seeing the highlights and everything, seemed like the other games were pretty fun as well. So I think people got what they wanted out of a Christmas Day game set, despite all the fucking safety and protocols bullshit that's going on right now. Yeah, and I'm happy that I tuned in for that. What have I been up to other than just kind of chilling? I've been very much these last few days, especially, including today, I've been very much just like a homebody. I mean, that's me pretty much this entire year, these last couple of years, really. But yeah, I've just kind of been just home, not doing a whole lot. Was thinking of going for a run earlier today because the weather was like kind of nice for like a brief period of time. It's been raining a lot, so during that reprieve, maybe I was hoping that I could maybe get in a run, but I don't know. I'm also not I don't feel 100% either again, so I don't know if I really want to push myself to do those things. What have I been doing? Yeah, not really. I haven't, again, as per usual, not really watching a whole lot of shows or movies or anything like that. Mostly I live on YouTube, and I've been playing a bit of SMT. That's been a lot of fun. I'm about, I'd say like 30 hours in. I don't exactly know where in the story I am. I think I'm a little over the halfway point. Usually when it comes to JRPGs, I like to check how long does it take to beat .com. I check the site and then I see how long it takes to on average how long it takes players to beat the game, and it looks like it was around like 40 hours ish, which is seems about right. I think that I'm thinking like I really I like I like having longer games. You know what I mean? That's why I like JRPGs. I like going through it and being with a game for a long time. I don't like. I'm not really like, obviously I don't mind games that are shorter in length. It's just that once I get through maybe like one playthrough of that, I just don't really have reason or incentive to get back into that world unless there's like additional content or whatever. So, I think obviously there's criticisms that can be made of JRPGs, like sometimes padding out the story and that sort of thing. I totally get that. But I just like having that experience to hold on to for over like an extended period of time, and so far that's been the case. I've had a lot of fun with the game. Again, stories, characters aren't shit, but the gameplay and the world make up for it. So yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with that. I think maybe I might have mentioned this before, but so far I would say, and I feel like maybe I need to play some of the other SMT games. I know that all the stories and everything, the themes are all very, very similar. Like they all, follow a pretty consistent storyline, right? Chaos and law and order, right? Versus, and then there's like a neutral path, and you have to figure out what there's multiple endings, right? Like it's always pretty much just based on the three games that I've played so far. That's what it seems like. So maybe I'll delve into. I think they remade. Was it 3? I forgot which one it was, but they remade one for the Switch, and I do want to check that one out, like at a later time. Maybe I'll probably take after I beat. I mean, I'll probably be on SMT5 for a little while longer, so after I beat it, whenever that happens, I'll probably take a bit of a break, and then maybe we'll get into that game. But yeah, I think so far my preference has been I really like Apocalypse. Apocalypse does a lot of things better than the 4, right? The original SMT4. I think it does the characters a little better. The characters are a little more interesting because, for one, there's more of a variety for those guys, and also I think they do a better job at fleshing them out and giving them interesting backstories and motivations and whatnot. And I think that, I think having they also bring back some of the characters from 4, and they sort of give them a little more depth as well in 4A. So I think that kind of adds itself, and also the world mechanics are a lot better, like the quests and everything. It's not as difficult or cumbersome to try to find quests and items and that sort of thing in the world, and they just improve upon a lot of things from 4. So yeah, I think I'd say right now Apocalypse has been my favorite. Just I think I just think having like a story really really does help though. So whatever my next game is going to be, I'm thinking I'm going to try to find a game that has like a very solid story, you know what I mean? That's kind of like that's sort of what I want at the moment. I think a good story would be just interesting to kind of delve into. And that sort of thing. Obviously, hopefully the game is also engaging, the gameplay and everything like that. I mean, that's the main point of playing games in the first place. Speaking of stories, I finally finished reading this book called A Separation by Katie Kitamura. First of all, I'm happy that I was able to read a book all the way through. It's been a long time since I've actually finished a book, so I have to give myself a little bit of props for that. and I'm glad I did. It was very interesting. I talked about this before when I first started reading this. I don't know, maybe like a couple chapters in. I gave like my first thoughts on it. And now that I finished it, I can kind of give a little, um, just kind of a brief summary, brief synopsis. I don't want to give. I don't know if you know. I don't want to give too much away in terms of the story or anything like that, but I think just sort of giving my general thoughts on it would be nice. So how do I even like summarize this story? Essentially, it's it's from a perspective of this nameless protagonist. She she's sort of in the process of going through a divorce with her husband, who essentially committed infidelity. He cheated on her, what appears to be multiple times. And so that's sort of like the main thrust of the story, is that she's dealing with this separation, right? And they haven't divorced yet. They haven't, formally divorced yet. They haven't signed the papers or anything like that. And so sort of she wants to kind of she's very, I think, just she's not really given, she kind of acts apathetic in a way through for a lot of the things that happen to her, or it just feels like we're not given a whole lot of like emotional descriptions of what she's going through, what the protagonist is going through, which is like interesting. It kind of reminds me of like The Stranger by Albert Camus, and what else? Zero K by Don DeLillo. All these protagonists very much lack emotional kind of resonance. They don't really react to a lot of things in a sort of typical way. Like everything that happens around them kind of gives us, gives us that emotional setting, if that makes any sense. Like it just doesn't. She's not really given a whole lot to work with, right? Like we're just kind of. She describes a lot of things, and like I'm trying to find like maybe like a quote. Like it's just hard to like read what she's really feeling. Like she describes her complications with her marriage, the complications with the relationship she has with her ex-husband's parents and that sort of thing. But it's a little hard to like, you can very much feel empathy for her and be like sympathetic to her situation and that sort of thing, but it's a little hard to like connect with the protagonist because she doesn't really, she very much, like I said, she describes a lot of the things that happen to her and again the relationships she's had, but she herself doesn't really let you in on what she's like really feeling. Like she talks about like sort of like being irritated and kind of uncomfortable in certain situations, but those are not really like, it doesn't feel like she's ever been like, there's no real strong emotions. Like those are just things that are kind of there, right? Like if you I don't know, if you spill coffee, you're going to be irritated, but when shit happens to her, she's never like, she never has like an outburst, or at least we're not really given that. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's very interesting. Like it's kind of it's very like dreamlike. Like everything kind of lives through her experience, despite the fact that she doesn't really give a whole lot uh in terms of her like emotional state. But like I mentioned this the last time I talked about this book, but the dialogue, the way it's written, is just kind of in the text. Like it's not separated out by quotations, so it's just kind of like, it just seems like she's sort of retelling how these conversations went, from her own perspective, which is very interesting. So it's like you can get a little bit of that sort of unreliable narrator, uh, sort of POV, and sometimes it can be kind of, I understand why it could be like maybe frustrating. I read some reviews about how the way the style of the book can be a little disorientating, which I totally get. That was sort of my first impression going through the first maybe like, 30 or so pages, but I eventually got used to this style of writing, and I like it a lot. I think it's really cool. I think it's just sort of like it feels like just kind of this like flow of thoughts, sort of unconscious, like not really a whole lot, um not a whole lot to really like her separate out like certain things. It was only until like the end where you're like, she was like sort of like telling a story about what had happened, and you're kind of like, you sort of see the separation between what she herself was experiencing and something that happened to someone else. Like you're like, okay, so that's like a very objective telling of the story, while everything else she talks about is very like subjective, like it's given from her perspective. But then again, like I said, she's not giving you a whole lot into her um emotional state, you know what I mean? Like it's just a lot of like there's a lot of descriptions about people and places, and she has thoughts about things, just sort of, generally speaking. I think she's just kind of like going through the motions, and she's uncomfortable at the situation she's in, but she just kind of goes with it, which is kind of funny. Um, it's a very interesting book, and it's only like 200 plus pages, so that's like perfect. I think this is like the right length of book that I needed in my life at the moment. So, and I'm interested in seeing and reading some of her other stuff too. I don't know if she, I don't know if this style of writing is going to be the same in every book. Maybe it's specifically for this book where she just completely drops quotations for dialogue. Um, but yeah, I very much enjoyed it. It was a very, very interesting read. And I don't want to give away like the ending or anything like that, but it's just kind of, it's very like open ended. So, it gives you a lot to kind of like, sit and think about. And yeah, can't wait to check out some other books from her. And hopefully I can kind of try to squeeze in some more reading before I get really busy with my work. Because, yeah, I really enjoyed reading this book. And I think anything more than like this length, it was like 250, I think it might be a little hard for me to like digest or really motivate myself to finish, just because like, I don't know, length can kind of be hard. Same reason why I don't really like start TV shows that have multiple seasons, each episode being like an hour. Like I just oh my god, that's so much. That's so much time, and I don't know if it's worth it. Will I actually like it? If I watch 2 episodes and I'm not into it, were those 2 hours a waste of time? Like I just get really just fucking in my head about that sort of thing. So I think a nice, decently sized, healthy dose of book is just kind of the way to go with this sort of thing. So yeah, hoping that I can find another good book to delve into next. I did start watching this one anime called The Great Pretender. I'm like 2 episodes in It's a lot of fun. Anything involving like conning, heists. This is kind of my jam. It's kind of my shit. I really like those types. Anything where it's like kind of like you have to have like a good little twist though. You know what I mean? Like it's got to work to an extent. But that being said, I'll still watch. I'll still watch those movies. Like there was one movie a little while back that came out, Tower Heist. It was with Ben Stiller and Eddie Murphy, and it's like a bunch of other people. Not a really that great of a movie, but it's still fun. You know what I mean? Because it involves like heisting and all this nonsense, and the way at the ending where they try to get, you know, I'm gonna spoil the movie Tower Heist from like 2011, but in the end where they try to get all of the people that deserve compensation, like how they do it doesn't really make that much sense. Like it's just kind of like, you know, how did they do that? Like how did they get that thing there? How did they get the car in the pool? Like that doesn't really, you know what I mean? Like so there's a whole lot of moments that don't really make a whole lot of sense, you know what I mean? So but I still enjoy it just because it's like it's the fun, you know, it was the fun adventures of these people trying to steal from a billionaire. So yeah, that's kind of I haven't, I'm again not a whole lot, I haven't really delved a whole lot into the show yet, but so far I'm enjoying it. It seems fun. It seems like a lot of fun. Anyways, that's gonna do it for today. I don't know if I'm gonna put out another episode before New Year's. Usually what I like to do, and I do this pretty much every single episode where I reflect on things, but usually at the end of every year that I've done this, I do like a little, you know, reflection on the year, and then maybe like a, you know, whatever goals and New Year's resolutions, all that fun stuff. But, you know, we'll see. We'll see if I put out an episode by then, and if not, happy holidays, happy New Year's. Yeah, going into 2022 with hopeful mindset. I don't fucking know. It's hopefully, you know, just do your best. Just do your best. Anyways, that's gonna do it for this episode. This has been Safe the Semantics, signing off.